Hare Krishna, welcome everyone. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. So Bhisham Prabhu and Dr. Prerna, the time is right. Has This is the time for Bhakti Shastri. The time is not changed, huh? Are you there, both of you?
Yes, Lord.
So shall we start?
Krishna pronounce. Omal gitti.
Hare Krishna, welcome everyone. So we shall start our today's session. We have already chanted invocation prayers. Any points from yesterday session that you remember, that you can recall? Just one point if all of you can share from our yesterday's discussion. What did we discuss yesterday? What were the subject matters, or any point from the purport or the discussion? Any questions? Let's quickly recall before we moving ahead.
So yesterday we discussed that how one cannot surrender to Krishna due to their three modes of material nature, and we also discussed about the four kind of the impious person who does not surrender to Krishna, and four kinds of the pious person who do surrender to the Krishna.
Okay, thank you. Yes, what else did we discuss? Any point that you remember from yesterday's discussion, please share. Is it possible to switch on the cameras? At least few cameras can be on. It looks so odd speaking to a black screen. What else did we discuss yesterday?
Prabhuji, we also discussed about the worship of the demigods that
Yes,
uh,
someone else. You already spoke for the game. Yeah, someone else can say. If you don't remember, you can open your booklets, open your notes, go through them. Yes, Damini Mataji. Yes, Damini Mataji, you can say.
Yesterday we discussed the four who surrender to Krishna and the four who does not surrender to Krishna, and about demigods.
Okay. So what are the four categories who don't surrender to Krishna? Anyone?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, those are the shloka is Namam Drishkritino Muda Prapadyante Naradama Maya Prahita Jnana Asuram Bhavamashita. These are the four kinds जो के नहीं समझ
What are
पाते
the four categories
भगवान
in this? What's the first category?
को and
It's Buddhas. Sorry, Muddas.
Yeah. What else? Say all the name of all the four categories from this verse.
Muddas, Dushkriti, miscreants. Second, and third is Dushkriti is called Maya
your voice is
Yapaharta
gone.
Jnana Nara Ahatma, and fourth is Ashoram Bhava Astiratata. Aesthetic in English. Demonic aesthetic.
Atheists, okay? And all of them are dushkritinas. So, mudas. What's the second category? Just say the name. Don't say the full phrase. Just say the name of the category.
प्रभुजी आर्थो जिज्ञासु अर्थार्थी and ज्ञानी.
Who don't surrender to Krishna. We are on that verse.
Okay, don't surrender to this.
So say the name of those who are not surrendered to Krishna. What are those categories? Or any point that you remember from yesterday?
Mooda, Naradama, and Maya, and Prahitagyana. These are the four. Asuram, जिनका भाव आसुरी होता है. These are the four main kinds.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Madhavan Prabhu. We missed you yesterday.
Thanks, Prabhuji. Like I opened the Bhagavad Gita and I found out like Krishna is revealing himself by like I am the original fragrance of the earth. I am the heat and fire. I am the life of all that lives. And he is saying that I am the seed of all the life. Then Krishna is saying about the like everyone rests upon me like pearl on a thread. Then
Yes,
then
thank you.
Krishna's yes.
Anyone else? Open Bhagavad Gita, see any verse, see the purport, try to recall. It's less than 24 hours. I think it's just 24 hours. Yeah. All of you shared many wonderful points yesterday. You discussed in the groups.
Prabhuji, we also discussed that the Gyani is the best among all. And then we also discussed that what is the
Why?
essence of,
Why Gyani is the best?
because they know about Krishna, they are Gyani. And the way they approaches the Krishna is good, like that's why.
Okay, but others also know Krishna. That's why they're approaching him.
They have the self-realization, the Gyanis, and
They
that's
are
why.
free from material desire, I guess. That's why.
Yes.
Okay.
And we have also discussed that essence of whole knowledge is to know Krishna.
Yes, Aditya Prabhu, we discussed about the two functions of Maya. So yes, we began our discussion yesterday from verse 7 to 11, how Krishna is prescribing to see him everywhere, how one can be Krishna conscious in all situations. In all situations, I have to drink water. In all situations, I can see the light, the sun and moon. I can smell the fragrance. I can see the life forms. I can see the ability. I can hear the sound. So Krishna is prescribing how one can see him. So if I follow that prescription, I can always meditate upon Krishna and he will reveal himself. Then we discussed how Tribhir Guna Mayir Bhaverebi Sarvamidam Jagat. And Krishna says, Matta evetitan viddinatmaham teshu te mai, that everything is coming from me, not just the good things, but even the mode of passion and ignorance. I am the source of all of them. But just like an electrician, it deals with electricity, and electricity can be used to make an object hot or cold, as in heater and refrigerator. But it's the same electricity. Similarly, for Krishna, everything is spiritual. There's no distinction between good and bad. Everything that he does is good. It's all absolute. That distinction is for us. So if Krishna is the source, Krishna is a source of creation, source of destruction, source of maintenance, he's everywhere. Why don't people surrender to him? Why don't people surrender to Krishna? Under the influence of modes of nature. What are those modes of nature? Daivi Esha Gudamai Maya Duratya. So what is the hope? We saw how Maya is creating one problem after another problem. Any solution you give, it creates another problem. So the only solution is to surrender unto Krishna. Then one can live happily and peacefully. Human form of life is meant to realize the ultimate problem. And the ultimate problem can be solved only by taking shelter of Krishna. We discussed that yesterday. Then we saw who doesn't surrender to Krishna, Namam Dushkritana Moda, which you all tell. Then who surrenders to Krishna, the four categories, Artha Jigyasur, Artha Arti Jnani. And then out of them, Krishna is saying Jnani is the best. Then next verse he says, Udara Sarva Evaite. Everyone is malicious, but Jnani is very, very dear to me. So then we discuss Bahunam Janmanamante Jnanvan Mam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sadurlabha. That a Jnani, after many, many births, takes shelter of Krishna, surrenders completely to him, knowing that he is the cause of all causes. And after that, Krishna is describing someone who is taking to the process of surrender, but not to him, but to demigods or to the impersonal aspect. So then we discussed about demigod worship. And Krishna is telling such people as Kamastastra Hirta Jnana, Prapadyantanya Devata. Antavattu phalam teshan tad bhavatya alpamedasam. Alpamedha. That they are less intelligent. Why? Because they are interested in something antavattu, something that will is temporary and limited. And their knowledge is stolen by kama, by lusty desires. And they want something, they want to fulfill their material desires. But Bhagavatam says, akama sarva kamava, moksha kamudarati. Whatever desire you may have, approach Krishna. Tivrena bhakti yogena. And then after describing, and he said, I am residing in the heart of every living entity. And it is, if someone is interested in worshipping demigod, I give them that faith so that they can fix their mind on that particular demigod. And through that worship, they go to the abodes of that demigod. But a person who's worshipping Krishna goes to Krishna. Right? Then we discussed someone who's taking shelter of not of the personal form of Krishna, but the impersonal form. Avyaktam vyaktimapannam manyante mama buddhaya. So they are considered as abuddhaya. Who are considered as abuddhaya? Manyante, one who thinks avyaktam vyaktimapannam. That the vyakti, the personal form, comes from the impersonal form. Impersonal feature. So they are abuddhaya because that is not the fact. And then Krishna said, Naham Prakasha Sarvasya Yogamaya Avrita. I'm not revealed to everyone. I'm not revealed to atheists. I'm not revealed to non-devotees. How can one see Krishna? Only through devotional service, through bhakti. Otherwise, he's not present in front of everyone. And Srila Prabhupada, in one of the lectures, so he's saying God never exposes himself to the non-devotees. Therefore, they are impersonalist, atheist, and voidist because God is not exposed to them. Suppose you want to see the president. If you are an ordinary man, you will not be able to see him. He's not exposed to the ordinary man. There must be some arrangement, or you must be qualified to see him. Similarly, you require qualification, some qualification to see God or to understand. So, what is that qualification to see God or understand God? Yes, Madhavan Prabhu.
Like Prabhuji in Brahma Samhita, like Brahmaji says, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanana, like the Anjan of the Bhakti. We need Bhakti to understand Krishna.
Yes, thank you. So one eyes have to be anointed with love of God. So that's the qualification to develop love of God. And that love is seen in the highest stage in the lives of gopis. So therefore it says, only through lolyam, to the degree I'm have intense greed for Krishna, that is the only price. That is the only way that I can see. And then we discussed Vedaham Samatidani Vartamanani cha Arjuna. That Krishna says, I know everything, past, present, and future. Mam tu Vedana Kashtana. But everyone doesn't know me. I know everything, but the reverse of this is not true. So this much we had discussed yesterday. Any questions from day 1 or day 2? Whatever we have discussed. Yes, Pranamadari.
Very good, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, my question was that Lord Vishnu's worship.
Voice is cutting. I didn't understand. You have to repeat. And you need to type the chat section. The voice is
Is
cracking.
other like Krishna's worship. Uh, oh, okay.
Can you type in the chat section? Yeah, I'm
Okay.
unable to get you.
Prabhuji, now it's clear.
Oh, it's still not clear.
Prabhuji, she can try by turning off her camera.
So try typing in the chat section, Madhuri. Okay, let's move ahead. Let me share the screen.
Prabhu,
Yeah.
Prerna is asking that Vishnu worship is demigod worship.
No, Vishnu worship is Vishnu worship. These are, if you are worshipping Vishnu Tattva, any form of Vishnu. When I say Krishna, Krishna includes all the Vishnu forms. It also includes all the devotees of the Krishna. It includes the dham of Krishna. It includes the paraphernalia that is used in the service of Krishna. So if you are worshipping Vishnu, that's a recommended form. And what is the proof? Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3. Which verse? Yes, Madhavan Prabhu.
Yadnartha Tarmanonyatra.
Say the full verse.
Yatnartha Tarmanonyatra Lotoyam Tarma Bandhana Tadartham Tarma Tonteya Mutta Samachara.
So yajna means anything that's done for Vishnu. So no, worshipping Vishnu is not demigod worship.
Prabhu, and she's asking then what about worshipping Vaheguru?
Worshipping Vaheguru. So who is Vaheguru? What's the identity of Vaheguru? Who is Vaheguru? I heard from someone that this name Vaheguru means Vasudev, Hari, Govind, and Ram. So they've taken first letter, and that's how they. And if it's referring to spiritual master, if you're referring, if you're addressing to Vishnu or any form of Vishnu or the pure devotee of Vishnu, that's not part of demigod worship. That's a genuine worship. And bhakti can take place in various ways and forms and shape. So those are bhakti. But someone is thinking why Guru is some different personality only and not clear about the identity of the person and with what conception they are worshipping. Okay, Shatabi Mataji.
Prabhuji, I have a question. Like we have heard a lot of times and read that surrender on the lotus feet of the God. So, can you just elaborate in simple words that what does that mean in the practical life?
What does that mean in practical life? Surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord. Dhyayam sada paribhoganam abhishtadoham. Practical terms, it means to pay obeisances, to put one head at the feet of the Lord, to pay full obeisances. That's why you'll see any glorification. It will start with Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya, Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale. So Krishna says, Man Mana Bhava Mad Bhakto Madhya Jimam Namaskuru. So when I bow down in front of Krishna, when I put my ego at his lotus feet, that I am your servant, to accept that servitude is surrendering. Srila Prabhupada was giving a class in 1960s in 26nd Avenue. And in the middle of class, one person entered. No, it was during question answers time. So, and he was a very new person. He probably came for the first time or second time. And he said, Prabhupada, I want to get initiated. So many devotees were irritated. Who's this person? And he's disturbing. He is not even coming regularly and he's asking openly, I want to be initiated. So Prabhupada asked him, okay, you tell who is Krishna. And he thought for a while and he said, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Swamiji. Then Prabhupada said, who are you? And he thought for a little while and he said, Swamiji, I am his servant. And Prabhupada said, okay, you can be initiated tomorrow. So it simply means, I am your servant. Jeev Krishna Das, ei Vishwas, kar le to aur dukha nahi. If a living entity believes that he is servant of Krishna, there are no more miseries in life. That's Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur writing this bhajan. So what does it mean to be a servant of Krishna? Then one can ask this. To be a servant of Krishna, then naturally the question would be how to serve Krishna. And the service to Krishna starts with tongue. Tongue, out of all senses, this is a very mysterious thing. The service to Krishna begins with tongue. Tongue has two functions, to chant, to speak, to vibrate, or to taste. So when you, through the tongue, you glorify Krishna's name, form, qualities, and pastimes, you are acting as a servant of Krishna. You are serving Krishna. When through tongue you taste delicious prasad, that is service, surrendering to the lotus feet of Krishna. And of course, this question can be answered in many ways, but ultimately, in one way or another, it is accepting servitude. Just this fact that I am not the controller of this world, I'm not the proprietor of this world, I'm not the supreme enjoyer in this world, I am here to facilitate and cooperate in Krishna's enjoyment. This is the beginning of that surrender of servitude. And the highest expression of that surrender is in Shikshashtakam last verse. What is that verse? Anyone remembers? Shikshashtakam last verse, 8th verse. Okay, homework for all of you. Tomorrow, next class, read that verse. Come with the meaning. Okay. It's actually Srimati Radharani.
Shivapadaritaam pinashtamamadarsanam marmahatam karotu ayatha tatha udadatu lampato.
Whether Krishna accepts
Pranamathas.
me or he tramples me under his lotus feet. You are my supreme worshipable Lord, birth after birth. So whether Krishna tramples me in by those feet or he embraces me, he picks me up and embraces me. In all condition of life, he is my worshipable. So that's, and of course, there can be various other ways to answer this question. This is what comes to me right now. Yes, Madhavan Prabhu, you have a question?
Prabhuji, my question is that what is Pral Sep Atmita and Avaran Atmita?
Okay, so someone answer Madhavan Prabhu's question? Yesterday we discussed in detail. Prakshipatmika and Avaranatmika. So this Maya is the energy of Krishna. Krishna says, Devi hi esha gunamai. This gunamai, mama maya durataya. This is my energy, this transcendental, which consists of modes of nature. So this energy has two functions. It works in two different ways. So one is called avaranatmika, which means it covers the consciousness of a living entity. And it makes a living entity forgets Krishna. A person may be suffering, but the person thinks I'm okay, I'm very happy. So that is avaranatmika. Maya has covered the consciousness. And prakshepatmika means it drags the living entity down. For example, someone is trying to serve Krishna and surrender to him. So Maya will give lot of temptations and proposals. What is the use of serving Krishna? Why not enjoy life in this world? It is so good. Or why serve Krishna now? There is so much life ahead. You first of all settle your certain things in life, settle your studies, settle your career, settle your life, and once everything is taken care of, then you can go and serve Krishna. So Maya will give lot of reasons and proposals to postpone our surrender to Krishna or not to surrender to him. So that is prakshipatmika function, to drag a living entity. Is it clear, Madhavendra? Okay.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So we were discussing this verse. Ichha dvesha samuthena dvandva mohena bharata sarva bhutani sammoham sargayanti parantapa. After describing how he is not revealed to every living entity and he knows past, present, and future, but not everyone knows him. So now he's saying, how does a living entity comes into Maya? Due to these two things, Ichha and Dvesh. These are the dualities of this material world. And the dualities are of this world, the cause of that dualities are these two, Ichha and Dvesh. So what is Ichha? Ichha is desire. And Dvesh is envy, hate. So if I desire something and I hate something, so there can be two kinds of desires. I want to desire for sense gratification. I want to be an enjoyer and enjoy for my own senses. Or there can be desire to serve Krishna. Okay. And then dvesh, hate. So what kind of hate? Again, there can be two kinds of hate. Or dvesh means aversion. Aversion that you may not like to serve Krishna or you may not like to serve Maya. So when we come in this material world, we come with two propensities, Ichha and Dvesh. Ichha means we want to enjoy this material world, and Dvesh means we try to avoid Krishna. So that is the cause of dualities of this material world. And this causes delusion. Yes, Madhavan Prabhu.
Prabhuji, like I had a question. Like I have heard that there is two types of hates. One is Irsha and one is Dvesh. And Irsha is more dangerous than Dvesh. So why there is written Dvesh instead of Irsha?
So yes, in certain context, we distinguish between Ichha and Dvesh, right? So sometimes it is known as jealousy and envy. So in jealousy, if someone is making progress, I don't like that. But the extreme form of jealousy means it when it turns into envy. That I don't like it and I want to destroy that other person. Like now I'm acting on my hatred to the extreme sense, that is dvesh. But here, this distinction is not there. Here, the word is used as dvesh in the context of aversion, that I like something, I dislike something in that way. So, like means either you like sense gratification or you like serving Krishna. Aversion means, or disliking means, I may dislike serving Krishna or I may dislike sense gratification. I may dislike Maya. So, but a living entity in this material world, so they like Maya and they dislike Krishna. And that is the cause of dualities. Sarga yanti parantapa. So if someone has to overcome this and be determined in one's devotional life, then what one needs to do? And Krishna is prescribing the solution to this in next verse. Ye shantvangatam papam jananam punya karmana tedvanva moha nirmukta bhajante mam dridhavrita. Yesha means those. See, you will see these terms again and again. Ye, te. Ye means those, te means those. Those. So, yesham tva antagatam papam. Anta means end. For those who has, what has ended? Papam, the sinful life. Jananam punya karmanam. Janana means those persons, and punya karmana means they're doing pious activities. So those whose previous activities, they have acted very piously, and their sinful actions are ended. Anta. Yesham tva anta gatam papam. Completely has ended. Then what happens to those? Te dvandva moha nirmukta. So those people, they become nirmukta. Free. Free from what? These two things. Dvandva and moha. What is dvandva? Dualities that we discussed in previous verse. The cause of those dualities is Ichcha and Dvesha. And moha means delusion. What is the biggest moha? I am this body and I am the enjoyer. So, bhajante mam dridhavrita. So, they become freed from dvandva and moha. And what are the symptoms of that freedom? How do we know that someone is free from dvandva and moha? Bhajante mam. They are engaged in devotional service, in bhajan to me. How? Dridhavrita, with lot of determination. Dridha means fixed up. That means dualities will come in the life. Sometimes there will be happiness, sometimes there will be distress. Sometimes there will be summer, sometimes there will be cold. Sometimes it will be light, sometimes it will be dark. Sometimes there will be honor, people will be appreciating. Sometimes they will be criticizing. But in all those changing circumstances, in all those dualities, one will be dridha. They will be fixed up in bhajan, then serving Krishna. So that will be the symptom. Usually we become disturbed because of these changing circumstances. And our devotional service, I'm just generalizing, at least my devotional service, it wavers because of these dualities. But to the extent I am free from my sinful action and I've acted piously in my previous life, I've become freed from dvandva and moha, and I'll be determined. I'll serve with determination. Right? So what kind of, here Krishna says, punya karmanam. So what kind of pious activities? And what are those pious activities? And what are the sinful activities? So that is why at the time of initiation, we take a vow of following 4 regulative principles, right? No illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling, and no meat eating. These are the four pillars of sinful life. So, antagatam papam, taking a vow that I'll not engage in these four sinful activities. And what are the punya karmana? What are the pious activities? The pious activities are devotional service, Shavanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. So, chanting Hare Krishna Mantra, offering food to Krishna, going to Mangala Arati, reading Bhagavad Gita, serving Vaishnavas, preaching, distributing books, any service to Krishna. These are punya karmana. Okay. So it cannot happen. Srila Prabhupada said you cannot do both at the same time. That you are igniting fire and pouring water on it. So if someone thinks I'm chanting Hare Krishna and I can do anything in life and Krishna will take care of me, that is one of the offenses of the holy name. It's not that because I'm chanting Hare Krishna, therefore I can engage in as many sinful activities and I'll be taken care of through my chanting. That is Namaprad. And Srila Prabhupada gives example of Jagai and Madai, that they were very sinful, but Nityananda Prabhu requested Lord Chaitanya to accept them. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted them on one condition, that whatever sinful activities you have done, I shall immediately nullify, but you must promise that you will not commit them again. So they promised. Ar Nare Bapa. This is wanted. So now, in the last two verses of this chapter, let's go to those verses. जरा मरण मोक्षाय माम आश्रित्य यतन्ति ये ते भ्रम तत्विदु कृष्णम अध्यात्मम कर्म चाखिलम. Intelligent persons who are endeavoring for liberation from old age and death take refuge in me in devotional service. They are actually Brahman because they entirely know everything about transcendental activities. So why Krishna is speaking this verse? In the previous verse, he has spoken of someone who is engaged in devotional service with determination. So Srila Prabhupada explains the context of this verse. Why Krishna is speaking this verse. Four kinds of impure devotees who engage themselves in the transcendental service of the Lord achieve their respective goal. So who are these four kinds of impure devotees? Any idea? What are these four kinds of impure devotees? Who we just read, who take shelter of Krishna for Artho, Jigyasu, Artharthi, and Jnani. So they are considered as impure because the motive is not pure. The motive is still mixed with selfish desires. That I want to free from my own dukkha. I want wealth for my own enjoyment. I want to satisfy my curiosity. Everything is I, and I. That is the impurity. Purity is, it is about Krishna, not about me, how I can satisfy Krishna. And by the grace of Supreme Lord, when they are fully Krishna conscious, they actually enjoy spiritual association with the Supreme Lord. But those who are worshippers or demigods never reach the Supreme Lord and his Supreme Planet. Even the less intelligent Brahman realized person cannot reach the Supreme Planet of Krishna, known as Golok Vrindavan. Only one who performs activities in Krishna consciousness are actually entitled to be called Brahman, because they're actually endeavoring to reach the Krishna planet. Such persons have no misgivings about Krishna, and this are factually Brahman. So, in this, Krishna is describing another kind of a devotee whose intentions are mixed. What are their intentions? I want to become free from old age and death. Still, it is about me. I want to be free from dukkha. And that is why I am taking shelter of devotional service. Right? But Krishna is appreciating that. And they're saying they are actually Brahman because they entirely know everything about transcendental activities. And finally, Sadi Bhutadi Daivam Mam Sadi Yagyam Cha Yevidu Prayana Kale Pichamam Te Vidur Yukta Chetasa. Those in full consciousness of me who know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of material manifestation of the demigods and of all methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the time of death. So Krishna conscious devotees can know Krishna at time of death and go to him. How they know Krishna? How they know the Supreme Lord? In three ways. Adibhuta, Adideva, and Adiyagya. That comes in this verse. So what is Adibhuta? Is the governing principle of material manifestation. Adideva is the governing of all the demigods. And Adiyagya, he is the enjoyer of all sacrifices. It's the governing principle behind all sacrifices. So one who knows Krishna in these three ways, they can think of Krishna at the time of death and they can attain him. And they can go back home, back to Godhead. Okay, someone please read. Srila Prabhupada is summarizing this chapter and this purpose. Please volunteer to read. Anyone? You can unmute yourself and start speaking. Are you able to see the screen? This
Yes,
seventh chapter.
Prabhuji.
Yes, $100.
Uh,
The seventh chapter particularly explains one become a fully Krishna conscious person. The beginning of Krishna conscious is association of persons who are Krishna conscious. Such association is spiritual and puts one directly in touch with the Supreme Lord. And by His grace, one can understand Krishna to be Supreme Personality of Godhead. At the same time, one can really understand the constitutional position of the living entity and how the living entity forgets Krishna and becomes entangled in material activities. By gradual development of Krishna consciousness in good association, the living entity can understand that due to forgetfulness of Krishna, he has become conditioned by the laws of material nature. He can also understand that this human form of life is an opportunity to regain Krishna consciousness and that it should be fully utilized to attain the causeless mercy of the Supreme Lord. Many subjects have been discussed in this chapter. The man in distress, the inquisitive man, the man in want of material necessities, knowledge of Brahman, knowledge of Paramatma, liberation from birth, death, and disease, and worship of the Supreme Lord. However, he who is actually elevated in Krishna consciousness does not care for the different process. He simply directly engage himself in activities of Krishna and thereby faculty attains his constitutional position as an eternal savior of Lord Krishna. In such a situation, he takes pleasure in hearing and glorifying the Supreme Lord. In pure devotional service, he is convinced that by his doing so, all his objectives will be fulfilled. This determined faith is called Dhridavarta and is the beginning of Bhakti Yoga or transcendental loving service. That is the verdict of all scripture. The seventh chapter of Bhagavad Gita is the substance of that conviction. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purpose to seventh chapter.
Okay, yeah. So all of these topics are discussed in this chapter. Artha, Jigyasu, you know, Artharthi, Jnani, knowledge of Brahman, knowledge of Paramatma, liberation from birth, death, and disease, worship of the Supreme Lord. Uh, if you're reading on your own, try to find out where Krishna speaks about man in distress in this chapter, where Krishna is speaking about knowledge of Brahman, where he's speaking about knowledge of Paramatma in this chapter, in which verse, where he's speaking about liberation of birth, death, and diseases, where he's speaking about worship of the Supreme Lord. Try to map these topics verse wise. Okay, that's one way of studying it. And Srila Prabhupada writes, a person who is elevated in Krishna consciousness does not care for different processes. What does he care for? He directly engages in the activities of Krishna consciousness. And what are those activities? In such a situation, he takes pleasure in hearing and glorifying the Supreme Lord in pure devotional service. Hearing and glorifying. The same that Krishna is saying in the first verse. Maya sakta manapartha yogam yunjan madashe asanshayam samagramam yatha gyasasi tatshuno. Hear from me this knowledge. Okay. So what's happening? He's convinced by his doing so, all his objectives will be fulfilled. Simply, if someone is engaged in hearing and chanting about Krishna, all objectives of life will be fulfilled. This determined faith is called Dridvrita. Just like we just read about Dridvrita, right? Yesham tvantgatam papam jananam punya karma. Tedvandva moha nirmukta bhajante mam Dridvrita. So that Dridvrita, this faith, that simply by hearing and chanting about Krishna, all objectives of my life will be fulfilled. This is the beginning of Bhakti Yoga. This is the verdict of all scriptures. Srila Prabhupada writes, the seventh chapter of Bhagavad Gita is the substance of that conviction. Okay, so let's go to chapter 8, Attaining the Supreme. Arjuna inquired, "Oh my Lord, the Supreme Lord, what is Brahman? What is the self? What are fruitive activities?" Let's read the word. Kim tad brahma, kim adhyatmam, kim karma, purushottama, adibhutam cha kim proktam, adidevam kim uchyate. Adhyagyaha katham kotra dehismin madhusudana, prayana kale cha katham geyosi niyatatmabhi. So Arjuna is asking questions in the first two verses. So you have to answer why Arjuna is asking these questions now, suddenly out of nowhere. It's not that it's out of nowhere. There's a context to it. So why Arjuna is asking these questions? What are the questions? Oh my Lord, O Supreme Person, what is Brahman? What is the self? What are fruitive activities? What is this material manifestation? What are the demigods? Please explain this to me. And then he's asking, who is the Lord of sacrifice? How does he live in the body, O Madhusudan? And how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? How? So why Arjuna is asking these questions now? Yeah. That's the question to all of you. Question about Arjuna's questions to all of you. Try to find out. You have Bhagavad Gita. I can give you a hint. It is something related to last two verses of seventh chapter. Something related to that. Can you find similar words in the verses of last two verses of chapter 7 and the first two verses of chapter 8? And then you can see the connection there. If you see the shloka, can you find out the words that are similar? And if yes, can you speak those words? What are the words that you find are same in the last two verses of chapter 7 and the first two verses of chapter 8?
Prabhuji, the word Brahmana and Brahmanyakali.
Okay. Brahman, Prayanakale. Yes. Netik Prabhu.
Prabhu, we have to find some connective words.
So my original question is why Arjuna is asking these questions at the beginning of chapter 8? That is the original question. What I told was a hint.
Prabhuji, in last shloka of 7 chapter 30, Krishna is telling those in full Krishna conscious of me, who know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of material manifestation, which is he said that would do demigods, all methods of sacrifices. That's why I think Arjun asking that what are the steps of these are things doing. That's why I think he asking these questions.
Okay, that's the one question that he asked out of many questions. How many questions Arjuna is asking in chapter 8? In the beginning?
Prabhuji,
Yes, Prabhu.
7.30, and it's the last line is even at the time of death, they can remember me. That's why Arjuna is asking that. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Arjuna is asking how can the person engage in your devotional service can know you at the time of.
Yes. Yes, right. Absolutely. So Arjuna is asking 8 questions in verse 1 and 2. What's the first question that Arjuna is asking? Kim tad Brahma? What is Brahman? Second question, Kim Adhyatmam? What is Adhyatma? So what is Brahman? What is Adhyatma? Kim tad Brahma? Kim Adhyatma? Kim Karma Purushottama? This is Purushottam Mass going on, and he's addressing Krishna as Purushottama. The third question, Kim Karma? What is Karma? What is Brahman? What is Adhyatma? What is Karma? Adibhutam cha Kim Proktam? That means what is Adibhutam? Adidevam vimuchyate. What is Adideva? So how many questions in first verse? 5. Right? Kim tad Brahma? What is Brahma? Kim Adhyatmam? What is Adhyatmam? Kim Karma? What is Karma? Adibhutam? Adidevam. These 5 questions he's asking in verse 1. And why is he asking? Because Krishna has spoken about this in the last 2 verses. Sadhi bhuta didaivam mam sadhi yagyam cha ye vidu prayad kale chak. So Krishna has spoken about these terms in the last 2, and Arjuna is clarifying what are these terms. What are these? What you have just introduced? Arjuna was not reading through word meaning, translation, and purpose. The conversation is happening only in Sanskrit. There are no purpose. There's no book to it. It's a live conversation. And Krishna just said to Arjuna in the last 2 verses, if you go through it, Jara Marana Mokshaya Mam Ashritya Yatanti Ye Te Brahma Tat Vidu Kritsnam Adhyatmam Karma Chakhilam. So Te Brahma, he said about Brahman. Tat Vidu Krishna Adhyatmam, he is mentioning about Adhyatmam. Kim Karma Chakhilam, he's speaking about karma. Right? And then in the last verse, he's saying, Sadhi Bhutadi Devam Mam, Sadhi Yagyam Chaye Vidu. So he spoke about Adibhut, Adidev, and Adiyagya. And then say, Prayad Kale Pichamam Te Vidur Yukta Chetasa. So Arjuna is clarifying these terms that Krishna used. So 5 questions in the verse 1. And then the second verse, Adhiyagyaha Katham Kotra. Dehismin Madhusudana. So Katham means how. Kaha Kotra means Kaha. So 2 questions. Who is Adhiyagyaha? Kaha means who and Katha means how. And how is he living in this body? Dehismin Madhusudana. Dehe means the body, Smin, in this body. So who is Adhiyagyaha and how he is living in this body? Prayad Kale Cha Katham. Again Katham. How? Prayad Kale, at the time of death. Geyo si niyatatmabiyo. One can know him. By whom? Niyatatmabhi, one who is self-controlled. And Srila Prabhupada translated this, one who is engaged in devotional service. Okay, so these 8 questions. Is it clear or is it too confusing? Are you able to understand?
Prabhuji, can you repeat the eighth question?
So first question, what is Brahman? Then the second question is, what is Adhyatma? Then the third question is, what is Karma? Then the fourth question is, what is Adibhuta? Fifth is, what is Adideva? Sixth is, who is Adhiyagyaha? Seventh is, where does Adhiyagya reside in the body? And eighth is, how one can know Krishna at the time of death. So these are the 8 questions that Arjuna is asking. It's a question answer session going on in this chapter. Krishna gave this knowledge. Remember in the verse 1 and 2, 3, Krishna is saying, I'm giving you that knowledge, Jnana and Vijnana. There's nothing further shall remain to be known. And he gave that knowledge in the remaining chapter of 7. And now Arjuna is asking question based upon what he has just heard. So it's a question answer session right now that's going on. Yes, Vishnu Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, can you please repeat the 3 questions? 6, 7, 8. Last 3 questions.
So who is Adhiyagyaha? Adhiyagyaha katham kotra dehismin madhusudana. So who is Adhiyagyaha? Where does he reside in this body? And prayad kale cha katham geyo si niyatatmabhi. At the time of leaving this body, prayad kale. Geyo si. Geyo means one can know Krishna or one can know Adhiyagyaha. Geyosi niyatatmabhi, by self-controlled, by one who is engaged in devotional service. How those people can know you at the time of death. Okay. So let's see what are the answers of Krishna. If someone asks you this question, how would you respond? And someone like Arjuna is asking a question, who's an Aryan. So Krishna is responding. Shri Bhagavan Vacha. Aksharam Brahma Paramam Svabhavodhyatma Muchyate Bhutbhavod Karo Visarga Karma Sangita. The Supreme Personality of Godhead says Aksharam Brahma Paramam. So first, what was the first question? Kim Tad Brahma. What is Brahman? So Krishna is answering Aksharam Brahma Paramam. That Brahman is Aksharam. It's indestructible and it is Paramam. Paramam means it's beyond the modes of nature. It is transcendental. Svabhavodhyatmam uchyate. What was the second question? Kim tad Brahma? Kim adhyatmam? What is adhyatmam? Svabhavodhyatmam uchyate. So Swabhav, the nature of Brahma is adhyatmam. What was the third question? Kim karma purushottama. What is karma? And Krishna is answering, Bhut bhavod bhava karo visargaha karma sangita. Bhut bhavo means which is produced with something that produce the material bodies of living entities. Udbhava kara. Bhut bhava udbhava kara. Any action that result in material body. Creation of the material body. Visargaha. Visarga means creation of the material body. Karma sangita. That is called as karma. So in the third verse, Krishna has answered first three questions of Arjuna. First question, what is Brahma? So the indestructible, transcendental living entity is called Brahman. And his eternal nature is called Adhyatma. Action pertaining to the development of the material bodies of living entity is called Karma. Okay. So Brahman means two things. Who is indestructible? The living entities and the Supreme Lord himself. Both are indestructible. But Srila Prabhupada is making a distinction. When I say Parabrahma, that is, I'm referring to Supreme Lord. When I'm saying Brahman, we're referring to living entities. So both are indestructible. But Brahman, specifically living entity, Parabrahman means Supreme Lord. Then the next is his eternal nature is called Adhyatma, the self. And Srila Prabhupada is describing the consciousness. In material consciousness, his nature is try to be the Lord of matter. But in spiritual consciousness, Krishna's position is to serve the Supreme. Right? So his eternal nature is called Adhyatma, the self. If someone is acting in material consciousness, that action leads to the development of material body, and that is called as karma. Okay, so next he's continuing to answer Arjuna's Adibhutam Sharobhavaha Purushaschaधिदैवtam Adiyagyahamevatra Dehide Bhritambara. So Adibhutaha. What is Adibhutaha? Can someone read the translation of this verse, please? Yes, Madhavan Prabhu. Go ahead.
O best of the embodied beings, the physical nature which is constantly changing is called Adi Bhuta, the material manifestation. The universal form of the Lord, which includes all the demigods, like those of the sun and moon, is called Adi Daiva. And I, the Supreme Lord, represented as the super soul in the heart of every embodied being, am called Adiyadya, the Lord of sacrifice.
Yeah. So Adibhuta means this physical nature that is constantly changing. What kind of changes are there? 6 changes. Srila Prabhupada said they are born, they grow, they remain for some duration, they produce some byproducts, they dwindle, and they vanish. So this physical nature, it is constantly changing. That is called as Adibhuta. And what is Adidaiva? The universal form of the Lord, which includes all the demigods, like those of sun and moon, is called Adidaiva. And then who is Adiyagya? Krishna says, I am Adiyagya. I am the super soul. Srila Prabhupada, let's do one more thing from the previous verse. It's an important thing. Okay, please someone read from this verse in context to karma. Read this paragraph, please. Madhavan, bro, you can continue. The Chandogya Upanishad describes the Vedic sacrificial.
The Chandogya Upanishad describes the Vedic sacrificial process on the sacrificial altar. 5 kinds of offerings are made into 5 kinds of fire. The 5 kinds of fire are conceived of as the heavenly planets, clouds, the earth, man, and woman. And the 5 kinds of sacrificial offerings are faith, the enjoyer on the moon, rain, grains, and semen. In the process of sacrifice, the living entity makes specific sacrifices to attain specific heavenly planets and consequently reaches them. When the merit of sacrifice is exhausted, the living entity descends to earth in the form of rain, then takes on the form of grains, and the grains are eaten by man and transformed into semen, which impregnates a woman. And thus the living entity once again attains this way. The living entity perpetually comes, and those on the material path, the Krishna conscious person, however, avoids such sacrifices. He takes directly to Krishna consciousness and thereby prepares himself to return to Godhead.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Right? So, by quoting Upanishads, Srila Prabhupada is describing the actions that result in material human body. So, he's describing the Vedic sacrificial process. And the 5 kinds of sacrifices. 5 kinds of offerings and 5 kinds of sacrifices. Very interesting. By faith, one executes a yajna. They reaches heavenly planet. They enjoy the moon. From there, when the karma is karma is lost due to enjoyment, then through the cloud, they come in the form of rains. The rain falls on the earth. On earth, the grain grows. Those grains are eaten by man. And through man, it goes into the womb of woman, and the child is born. Anyway, you can go through all the purports, please. So yes, so Krishna answers how many questions in this verse? What all questions he answers? First of all, Adibhuta. What is Adibhuta? The constantly changing physical nature. Then Adidaiva, the universal form of the Lord, which includes all demigods, that is Adidaiva. And then Adiyagyaha. Who is Adiyagyaha? Who is the enjoyer of the all sacrifices. That is Supreme Lord. And he is sitting in the form of Paramatma. He is Adiyagyaha. And what are the function of Super Soul? What does he do in form of Super Soul? Srila Prabhupada writes, is seated beside this individual soul, is the witness of individual soul's activities and is the source of soul's various types of consciousness. So he is the witness and he's source of soul's various types of consciousness. He gives individual soul free will. Now, after answering how many questions so far? He answered 3 questions in the previous verse. What is Brahma? What is Adhyatma? What is Karma? Then he answered, what is Adibhuta, Adidaiva, and Adiyagyaha? Who is Adiyagya and where is he residing? So 7 questions he answered in 2 verses. And the rest of the chapter is the answer to the 8th question. What was the 8th question? Please tell, what was the 8th question?
How can we know Krishna at the time of death?
Yes. So he answered 7 questions in just 2 verses. And all the remaining verses will be answering this 8th question. It's the most important question. How to know Krishna at the time of death? अंतकाले च मामेव स्मरन् मुक्त्वा कलेवरं यः प्रयाति समद्भावं याति नास्त्यत्र संशयः. And whoever at the end of his life quits his body remembering me alone at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. So who can attain Krishna? Who can think of him at the time of death? And Krishna is saying, Nasti atra sanshaya. Don't doubt. It is sure. Absolutely it happened. Okay, please read the purport. Anyone, you can volunteer. Yes, Komal Mataji, please read.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. In the verse, the importance of Krishna consciousness is stressed. Anyone who quiets his body in Krishna conscious is at once transferred to the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is the purest of the pure. Therefore, anyone who is constantly Krishna conscious is also the purest of the pure. The word Simran remembering is important. Remembrance of Krishna is not possible for the impure soul who has not practiced Krishna consciousness in devotional service. Therefore, one should practice Krishna consciousness from the very beginning of life. If one wants to achieve success at the end of his life, the process of remembering Krishna is essential. Therefore, one should constantly, incessantly chant the Maha Mantra Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Lord Chaitanya has advised that one be as tolerant as a tree. There may be so many impediments for a person who is chanting Hare Krishna. No, none is less tolerating all these impediments. One should continue to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, so that at the end of one's life, one can have the full benefit of Krishna consciousness.
Yeah. So this is the advantage of Krishna consciousness. This is the advantage of Bhakti Shastri that all of you are doing. Ultimately, the goal is this: remember Krishna and remember him alone at the time of death. So by discussing these instructions of Krishna, we are trying to think of Krishna, and this is a practice. So if someone can think of Krishna at the time of death, their life is successful. So yeah, it is said the life is an exam and death is a death is an exam and life is a preparation for that exam. So when will this exam be taken? Do you know the date of the exam? Every exam has a date, right?
Anytime, anywhere.
Yeah. So this is the surprise exam. And it will come knocking the door. Okay, time for exam. So if someone is an intelligent student, they are always prepared for the exam, right? So when they are giving this exam, what is the syllabus? Like, what is the question that will be asked? Question paper has been told in the advance by Krishna. Krishna is revealing what question will be asked at the time of death. The question is, whom do you remember? The passing marks is, if you can remember Krishna at the time of death, you are passed. Otherwise, not yet. You have to give another exam then. And what is the syllabus? Syllabus is Bhagavad Gita, right? So have you read any book which says 10 reasons why I should not die? Like, can I somehow or other skip this exam, take a leave, use my contacts, Or can I become so powerful that when death comes, I can beat him in wrestling match? Can I become so beautiful that I allure death? Or I become so good in speech that I can defeat deaths with my arguments? Is it possible? Have you read any book, 10 Reasons Why I Should Not Die? Has anyone written that book? No. Death is sure to come, and it is not sure when it will come. So if someone can think of Krishna at the time of death, they can reach him. So one time one student asked in our college time, oh, it is so simple. Then what I will do, I'll take a gun, I'll say Hare Krishna, I'll put Kirtan, I'll shoot, and I'll go back home, back to Godhead. Is it not? Is it so simple? What do you think about that proposal? Krishna here says, Antakale Chamameva. So I think of Krishna and if someone commits suicide, will they go back home, back to Godhead? Why not? According to this verse, they should go now. So because there is lot of time in pulling the trigger and when the bullet comes and when a soul actually leaves the body. So in those microseconds, whatever will our attachment be, we'll think about that. It's not easy. Krishna says, Dhyutam chalayatam asmi. I am the gambler among the cheats. You can't cheat Krishna. Krishna says, I am the biggest cheater. No one can surpass me in cheating. If you try to cheat me, you yourself will be cheated. So what will we think of at the time of death? So that's a practice. If I'm in my trouble, in my present moment, how can I practice remembering Krishna? So Srila Prabhupada writes, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, by chanting his holy names. If you've read the introduction to Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada said, there are so many things that takes our consciousness away from Krishna. Newspapers, so many different booklets. At that time, there was no social media, there are so many videos, so many things are there. But the Vedic literature are there so that I can bring my consciousness back on Krishna. If I can take advantage of this Vedic literature, I can put my consciousness on Krishna. If I remember those verses in chapter 7, Rasoham Apsukantaya, Punyogandha Prithvivyam Cha, all those verses, I can practice remembering Krishna through those times. But at the end of the day, the condition is Antakale cha mameva smaran mukta. If I can think of Krishna at the time of death. So Srila Prabhupada writes, he speaks a very interesting thing in one of his classes. He says, it is not guaranteed that because somebody is thinking of Krishna during his lifetime, that he will get a body like Krishna's and go to Krishna's abode. But it is a general rule. Okay, we'll come to that point in next verse. Let's discuss the first one, next verse. So Krishna told very clearly, if someone thinks of me at the time of death, he'll come to me. So what about someone who doesn't think about Krishna at time of death? What about those people? Where will they go? So Krishna says in the next verse, Yam yam vapis paran bhavam tyajityante kalevaram tantameva kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavita. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. So if we are not thinking about Krishna, we are thinking about something else. That particular state they will attain at the time of death. So what will come in our consciousness at the time of death, what will come? One time in Mayapur, so there's Navdeep Mandal Parikrama every year during Gaur Purnima time. And earlier, we used to, when we go to on Parikrama, there are many ghats. There are various rivers there. And on one of those ghats, Ganga River was there. Devotees would take bath there. So there was this one devotee who was very expert swimmer. And he jumped from the ghat into the river. But he miscalculated. There was not so much depth in the river. And actually his head came crashing into one of the stone there. And he suddenly became unconscious. That was an accident. So all the doctors, all the devotees, they very hurriedly took that devotee to the hospital. And somehow he was saved. And he came back to consciousness the next 24 hours and he was being treated. So his friends went to see him. And in jokingly, those devotees asked him, his friends asked him, describe what happened when that accident happened. So he said, suddenly there was, I hit my hand. I didn't know what happened. There was so much of dark in my consciousness and it was so paining like that. But this one devotee asked, what did you think when that happened? Like what happened with your consciousness? So he was not telling. He was shying. But devotees kept on insisting, okay, please tell. What came to your mind? What came to your consciousness when that happened? And after a lot of persistence, he finally said, I saw an ad many years back. It was a soap ad. And there was the one lady who was showing, selling the soap in that ad. And that lady appeared in the consciousness. Right? So, uh, whoever, where our thoughts goes in the last moment, that kind of body one gets. If I'm so attached to my pet dog, Tommy, do this, Tommy, do that, and I'm really attached to that. And if I die and if I'm thinking about Tommy, then there are high chances that the soul takes birth in the body of a dog. If someone is thinking of our own relative, someone is thinking about money, someone is thinking about, we all have different forms of attachment. To the degree we are attached, all those attachments comes at the time of death. So whatever thought will be, whatever our state of consciousness will be, Krishna says, that very state the living entity attains without fail. And this entire process happens under the supervision of higher authorities. The subtle body takes the soul from one gross body to another gross body. And Srila Prabhupada writes, gives an example from Srimad Bhagavatam. Maharaj Bharat, although a great personality, thought of a deer at the end of his life, and so in his next life, he was transferred into the body of deer. Although as a deer, he remembered his past activities, he had to accept that animal body. Of course, one's thought during the course of one's life accumulate to influence one's thought at the moment of death. So this life creates one's next life. If in one's present life we live in the mode of goodness and always think of Krishna, it is possible for one to remember Krishna at the end of one's life. That will help one be transferred to the transcendental nature of Krishna. If one is transcendently absorbed in Krishna's service, then his next body will be transcendental, not material. Therefore, the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare is the best process for successfully changing one state of being at the end of one's life. So this life is a practice. Practice to remember Krishna. How can one remember Krishna? By chanting his name. So anything that happens in our life, thank you, Krishna. You are walking and suddenly you hit your feet against a stone or a wall. Your thumb, the little finger on your right foot, it just bends, it pains. What comes out of our mouths? Ah, mummy. So try replacing it. Oh, Krishna. Or we practice gratitude. I'm suffering or I'm happy. I'm bored. Can I remember Krishna in all my emotions, in all my circumstances? Can I thank him? That's a practice. The light goes away. Thank you, Krishna. The Wi-Fi goes away. Thank you, Krishna. Someone steals my phone. Thank you, Krishna. Someone gives me lot of praise. Thank you, Krishna. Food tastes so good. Thank you, Krishna. The food tastes so bad. Thank you, Krishna. In all circumstances, can I say Hare Krishna? Thank you, Krishna. That's a practice, right? If I can practice, there are chances and that when that time would come, when there will be so much of pain, kaf, vat, pitta. What are the prayers of King Kulashekar? Anyone remember? Very famous prayers that Srila Prabhupada used to write. Krishna Tvadiya Pada Pankaj Panjarantam Adhyaiva Me Manaso Manasa Rajahansa. Right? So very beautiful prayers. So therefore, what one needs to do? So Krishna is saying, Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmara Yuddhacha Mayarpita Manobuddhir Mam Eveshasi Sanshaya. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. So, Mam Anusmara Yuddhacha. Think of me and act. And if you can do that, you will attain me without doubt. Abhyas yoga yuktena chetasananyagamina paramam purusham divyam yati parthanan. So how to think of Krishna always? And if someone acts in this way, Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu, Krishna says, therefore you do this. So what happens? How to do that? Krishna says, he who meditates on me as Supreme Personality of God, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me. How? Nanya not in anyone else, but on Krishna. He's sure to reach me. But how to do that? That's the main question. Like what kind of practice? And how to fix one's mind upon Krishna. So Krishna himself tells in the next verses. Kavim Puranam Manushasitaram Manoraniyam Samanusmaretyah Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parastat. Please read. Someone who has not read so far. Read the translation.
Can I, Prabhu?
Yes.
One should meditate upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, as he who is the oldest, who is the controller, who is the smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material conceptions, who is inconceivable, and who is always a person. He is luminous like the sun, and he is transcendental beyond this material nature.
Yeah. So, how to meditate upon Krishna? So, he tells 10 ways how to remember him as Kavi, that he is knower of everything, past, present, and future. Just like he mentioned in chapter 7, also, Vedaham Samatitani, Vartamanani. He is oldest, he is controller, he is smaller than the smallest, he is maintainer of everything, he is beyond all material conception, and he is achintya. He is always a person, like Rupam, he has a form, he's a person, he is luminous like sun, and is beyond his material nature. One needs to meditate in these 10 ways. There are 10 ways of thinking or meditating on the Supreme Lord. So then he continues, Prayanakale manasa chalena bhaktya yukto yog balena chaiva bhruvor madhya pranamavesha samyak satam param purusham upaiti divyam. So Krishna is just discussing bhakti. But here in this verse, he's specifically talking about Yoga Mishra Bhakti. He's talking about a yogi, because that was the subject matter he was continuing in chapter 6. He was speaking about Dhyana Yogi. So there are different kinds of yogi: Karma Yogi, Jnana Yogi, Dhyana Yogi, Bhakti Yogi. So in this verses, he's specifically talking about a Dhyana Yogi, how a Dhyana Yogi meditates upon Krishna and attain perfection. How? One who at the time of death fixes his life air between the eyebrows and by the strength of yoga with an undeviating mind engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord in full devotion will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, in these four verses, 10, 11, 12, 13, Krishna is explaining the practice of those dhyana yogis, how they can attain him at the time of, how they can think of Krishna at the time of death. यदक्षरं वेद विदो वदन्ति विशन्ति यद्यतयो वीतरागः यदिच्छन्तो ब्रह्मचर्यं चरन्ति तत्ते पदं संग्रहेण प्रवक्ष्ये. Persons who are learned in the Vedas, who utter Omkara, and who are great sages in the renounced order, enter into Brahman. Desiring such perfection, one practice celibacy. I shall now briefly explain to you this process by which you may attain salvation. So in the previous verse, he recommended the practice of Sat Chakra Yoga, how to raise life air to Agya Chakra. In this verse, he's speaking about the practice of chanting Om. And then he's speaking about how to renounce all sense gratification and fix one's mind on one's heart in the next verse. Sarvadvarani sanyamya manohridi nirudya cha murdhani adhyatmana pranam astito yoga dharanam. The yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagement, closing all doors of the senses and fixing the mind on the heart and the life air at the top of the head. One establishes himself in yoga. So, if someone does this practice, as mentioned in this verse 10, 11, 12, 13. Let's go to verse 13 also. Om iti ekaksharam brahma Vyaharan manusmaran ya prayati tyajan deham sayati paramam gatim. After being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om, the supreme combination of letters, if one thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and quits his body, he will certainly reach spiritual planets. All right. So it is clearly stated here that Om, Brahman, and Lord Krishna are not different. The impersonal sound of Krishna is Om, but the sound Hare Krishna contains Om. Chanting of Hare Krishna mantra is clearly recommended for this age. Yes. So there are different kinds of yogi, and there are different people who have different aspirations. Someone wants to merge into Brahmajyoti. Someone wants to attain the abode of Krishna. So if someone is practicing this, they enter into the impersonal Brahman, which is beyond this material world for sure. So those who are learned in the Vedas, who utters Om, they practice celibacy, and they are great sages in renounced order of life. They enter impersonal Brahman. But if someone is chanting Hare Krishna, they are worshipping the form of the Lord, they go back to the abode of Krishna. So they are different. So now, after describing the practice of a dhyana yogi, Krishna once again wants to emphasize pure devotional service for his own bhaktas. So therefore, he is now speaking these verses for his bhaktas. His heart. Ananya cheta satatam yomam smarati nityasha tasyaham sulabha partha nitya yuktasya yogina. For one who always remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain, O son of Pritha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. So he's discussing about the pure devotional service and now the nature of the spiritual world. Mamupetya punarjanma dukkhalema shashvatam naptuvanti mahatmana sansiddhim paramam gatim. Very famous verse of Bhagavad Gita. So after attaining me, if someone practices just like the previous verse, in the previous verse, Ananya Cheta, with fixed consciousness, what happens to them? Krishna is saying, they, after attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries because they have attained the highest perfection. So there are two characteristics of this world, dukkhalayam and ashashvatam, that it's full of miseries and it's temporary. But if someone attains Krishna, they don't have to return to this world, which is temporary and which is full of misery. What are the miseries in this world? Birth, old age, disease, and death. Whether someone is living on earth, someone is living in the heaven, on the Brahmalok, Patalok, everywhere in this material world, these four things you will find everywhere. Birth, old age, disease, and death. So these are the miseries. And then it's temporary. The soul is eternal. It wants, even if someone finds any happiness in this world, which is like a drop in the desert, it is still temporary. It is not sufficient and it will not last. But someone can leave this world and go back to Krishna. And he's continuing. Abrahma bhuvana loka punaravartin arjuna mamupetya tu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. So maybe earth, that conversation is happening in Kurukshetra, and Arjuna may think, okay, you're talking about just this earth. So Krishna says, no. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of miseries, wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. So that's the value of Krishna consciousness. So what is so special about Krishna's abode? So therefore, he is making a comparison between spiritual world and material world. So he'll compare both worlds in next 6 verses from 17 to 22. Sahasrayuga paryantam aharyad brahmano vidu ratrim yuga sahasrantam teho ratra vidojana. By human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together form the duration of Brahma's one day, and such also is the duration of his night. So what is the duration of this world? 1,000 ages. What are 1,000 ages? A kalpa. A kalpa is a day of Brahma. And one day of Brahma consists of 4 yugas. Multiply by 1,000. 1,000 cycles of Chaturyug. So Chaturyug means Satyug, Treta, Dwapar, Kali. This is one Chaturyug. 1,000 Chaturyug is one kalpa. That is 12 hours of Brahma. So what is the duration of one Chaturyug? So add these 17,28,000 plus 12,96,000 plus 8,64,000 plus 4,32,000. So are you able to see the pattern? In Satyug, the duration of Satyug is 17,28,000. You minus 4,32,000, it becomes 12,96,000 in Treta Yuga. You subtract again 4,32,000, it becomes 8,64,000 in Dwapar. You again subtract 4,32,000, that's the age of Kali Yuga. So you add all of these figures. That is one Chatur Yuga. Multiply by 1,000, that are 12 hours of Brahma. Multiply by 2, because there are 24 hours in one day. That becomes 1 day of Brahma. Multiply by 30, that becomes 1 month. Multiply by 12, that becomes 1 year. Multiply by 100, that becomes the life of Brahma. And if you do all of this calculation, it comes to 311 trillion and 40 billion Earth years. So by these calculations, the life of Brahma seems fantastic and interminable, but from the viewpoint of eternity, it is as brief as a lightning flash. In the causal ocean, there are innumerable Brahmas rising and disappearing like bubbles in the Atlantic. Brahma and his creation are all part of the material universe, and therefore they are in constant flux. So this is how Krishna is explaining the material world is being created and the time scale. Avyakta advyaktaya sarva prabhavantya ragame ratri agame praliyante tatraiva vyakta sangake. Beginning of Brahma's days, all living entities become manifest from the unmanifested state, and thereafter, when the night falls, they are merged into unmanifested again. Bhutgrama se evayam bhutva bhutva praliyate ratri agama vasha partha prabhavatya ragame. So again and again, when Brahma's day arrives, all living come into being, and with the arrival of Brahma's night, they are helplessly annihilated. So 12 hours is the daytime of Brahma, 12 hours is the night time. During daytime, all living entities manifest. During night time, they are annihilated. So there are two types of annihilation. One, pralay happens when it is the night time of Brahmas. And the super pralay that happens is when Brahma's life is about to end. So here Krishna is speaking about the first type of pralay. Then, so that Krishna spoke about, this is how material world functions. They based upon the life of Brahma. His life is divided into 100 years. Each year has 12 months. Each month has 30 days. Each day, there are 24 hours. 12 hours is the daytime. 12 hours is the night time. During 12 hours, it's the manifested time. In the night time of Brahma, there is devastation in all the lower planetary system. Only planet that remains is the Brahmalok. All living entities are in the goes back into the unmanifested form. And during the daytime, they return to the manifested form and they continue their journey from where they left. But in all of this, now Krishna is speaking about his spiritual world. Yet there is another unmanifested nature which is eternal. It is not annihilated when the pralaya comes. It is eternal. It is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme. It is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. Nashyatsu na vinashyati. Yahasa sarveshu bhuteshu nashyatsu na vinashyati. So all the sarveshu bhuteshu, when everything is nashyatsu, becomes destroyed, that world is na vinashyati. It is not annihilated. Krishna is saying. Avyaktoksara iti yuktastamaho paramam gatim yam prapyana nivartante tadhama paramam mama. That which Vedanta is described as unmanifest and infallible, that which is known as supreme destination, that place from which having attained it one never returns, that is my supreme abode. So if someone goes back to Godhead, then don't return to this material world. Krishna is assuring that. Purushaha saparapartha bhaktya labhyastvananyaya yasyantastani bhutani yena sarvam idam tatam. So how to attain that abode of the Lord that Krishna described in the previous verse? That parastasmatu bhavono, abhyaktokshara iti yuktas. So all of that abode, how to obtain that? So Krishna is saying, it is obtained by bhaktiya labhyastvananyaya. What kind of bhakti? Ananya bhakti. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is greater than all, is attainable by unalloyed devotion. Although he is present in his abode, he is all-pervading and everything is situated within him. So through pure devotional service, through Ananya Bhakti to Krishna, one can attain him. So after comparing material world and spiritual world and giving us the glimpse and the invitation and the process how to reach there, so Krishna concludes describing the spiritual world and the process of reaching it. Now these are the final 6 verses of this chapter. And Krishna discusses the processes by which a soul should leave the body to attain the Supreme. First of all, he'll speak about the yogis and then he'll again speak about the devotees and he will establish the supremacy of devotional service. Yatra kale tvana avritam chaiva yogina prayatayanti tam kalam vakshyami bharatarashava. The best of the Bharatas, I shall now explain to you the different times at which passing away from this world the yogi does or does not come back. So based upon at what time soul leaves the body, sometimes they come back, sometimes they go back and they're liberated. So what are those timings? Those who know the Supreme Brahman attain that Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery god in the light at an auspicious moment of the day during the 4th night of the waxing moon or during the 6th night when the sun travels in the north. So he gives calculation. Agnir Jyoti Raha Shukla Shanamasa Uttarayanam. So when the sun is in the Uttarayana, Tatra Prayata Gachanti Brahma Brahma Vidojana. Okay, can someone please read the purport for this one? Go ahead. Unmute yourself and speak.
When fire, light, day, and the fortnight of the moon are mentioned, it is to be understood that over all of them there are various presiding deities who make arrangements for the passage of the soul. At the time of death, the mind carries one on the path to a new life. If one leaves the body at the time designated
What happened? Designated above. Either accidentally or by arrangement, it is possible for him to attain the impersonal Brahmajyoti.
Prabhuji, I'm on the fourth line. Mystics who
Yes.
are advanced in yoga practice can arrange the time and place to leave the body. Others have no control. If by accident they leave at an auspicious moment, then they will not return to the cycle of birth and death. But otherwise, there is every possibility that they will have to return. However, for the pure devotee in Krishna consciousness, there is no fear of returning, whether he leaves the body at an auspicious or inauspicious moment, by accident or by arrangement.
Yes. Okay. Dhumo ratris tatha Krishna Shanamasa Dakshinayana Tatra Chandramasam Jyotir Yogi Prapya Nivartate. So when the sun was in the Uttarayan, and if someone leaves the body when the sun is in the Uttarayan, they don't return back. But when the sun is in the Dakshinayan, Dhumo Ratristhita Krishna, Tatra Chandramasam Jyotir Yogi Prapya Nivartate. The mystics who passes away from this world during the smoke. So it's not about anyone who leaves the body when the sun. No, it's specifically talking about the mystic, the yogis. Yogi Prapya Nivartate. They're talking about yogi, not anyone. So the mystic who passes away from this world during the smoke, the night, the fortnight of the waning moon, or the 6 months when the sun passes to the south, Dakshinayana, reaches the moon planet, but again comes back. So that yogi reaches the moon planet, heavenly planets, but they have to come back. They have not attained spiritual world. Right? Shukla Krishna gati he te jagata shashvate mate ekaya yatyanavrittam anyaya vartate puna. So there are two ways of passing from this world, one in light, one in darkness. When sun is Uttarayan or when the sun is in Dakshinayan. And the result is different for the both timings. When one passes in light, he does not come back. But when passes in the darkness, he returns. Naiti sthiti partha janan yogi muhyati kaschana tasmat sarveshu kaleshu yoga yukta bhavarjana. Now, Krishna again speaks his heart out, his love for the devotees, and is recommending once again devotional service. What is saying? Although the devotee know these two paths, O Arjuna, they are never bewildered. Therefore, be always fixed in devotion. Yes, let's read this purport, please. Someone else can volunteer, please, to read this purport. So shall we make all the calculation when the sun is Uttarayan? And can we choose the timing of our departure? That's the bigger question. Is it up to us? So Krishna is answering in this. Yes, please. Unmute yourself. Go ahead, read the purport.
Krishna is here advising Arjuna that he should not be disturbed by the different paths the soul can take when leaving the material world. A devotee of the Supreme Lord should not worry whether he will depart by arrangements or by accident. The devotee should be firmly established in Krishna consciousness and chant Hare Krishna. He should know that concern over either of these two paths is troublesome. The best way to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness is to be always dovetailed in his service, and this will make one's path to the spiritual kingdom safe, certain, and direct. The word yoga yukta is especially significant in this verse. One who is firm in yoga is constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness in all his activities. Sri Rupa Goswami advises anasktasya vishayan yatram upyunjata. One should be unattached in material affairs and do everything in Krishna consciousness. By this system, which is called the Yukta Vairagya, one attains perfection. Therefore, the devotee is not disturbed by these descriptions because he knows that his passage to the supreme abode is guaranteed by devotional service.
Yes. So there are mystic yogis who can decide the time of their leaving the body. It's not possible for everyone. How many of us can do that? And how many? Krishna says there's no need even. What is the path he's recommending for the devotees? Especially to Arjuna, saying, please don't be bewildered by all of these. Devotees know these two paths, but they are never bewildered. They're always fixed in devotion. They're dependent upon Krishna, and Krishna guarantees that, yes, I come and take my devotees again. How? And this is concluding in this verse. The summum bonum, the essence of the entire chapter, and this is in this verse. Vedeshu yagyeshu tapasu chaiva daneshu yat punya phalam pradishtam atyaiti tat sarvamidam viditva yogi param sthanam upaiti chadyam. Such a beautiful verse. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from Vedeshu, by studying the Vedas, Yagyeshu, performing sacrifices, Tapasu chaiva, by undergoing austerity, Daneshu, giving charity, Yet punya phalam pradishtam atyayiti sarvam idam, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Why? Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all of these, and at the end, he reaches the supreme eternal abode. So, a devotee does not separately need to engage in the activities of either Vedeshu or Yajna or Tapa or Dan or Punya Phalam. Everything is included in Bhakti. Devotional service is the essence of Vedic studies. Vedesh sarver aham eva vedya, Krishna is saying. Devotional service is the highest sacrifice. Devotional service is the best austerity. Devotional service is the best charity. Vasudeva Paramakha. Vasudeva. Yesterday we read that word. Vasudeva Param Jnanam. Vasudeva Parantapa. So, yes. Please read this purport also. Yes, Hansa Dolan. Mataji.
This verse is summation of 7th and 8th chapters, particularly as the chapter deals with the Krishna consciousness and devotional services. One has to study the Vedas under the guidance of spiritual master and undergo many austerities and penances while living under his care. A brahmachari has to live in home of spiritual master just like a servant, and he must beg alms for door to door and bring them to spiritual master. He takes food only under master's order, and if master neglects to call the student for food that day, the student fasts. These are some of the Vedic principles for observing brahmacharya. After the student studies the Vedas under the master of a period from 5 to 20 years, he may become a man of perfect character. Study of the Vedas is not meant for the recreation of armchair spectaculars, but for the formation of character. After this training, the brahmachari is allowed to enter into the household life and marry. When he is a householder, he also has to perform many sacrifices and strive for further enlightenment. Then, after retiring from household life, upon accepting the order of Vanaprastha, he undergoes severe penances such as living in forest, dressing with tree bark, not shaving, etc. By carrying out the orders of brahmachari householders, Vanaprastha and finally sannyasa once become elevated to perfectional stage of life. Some are then elevated to heavenly kingdoms, and when they become even more advanced, they are liberated in the spiritual sky, either in the impersonal Brahma Jyoti or in the Vaikuta planets, Krishna Loka. This is path outlined by Vedic literatures. The beauty of consciousness that once engaging in devotional service, we can serve all the wishes of different orders of life. One should try to understand the 7th and 8th chapter of the Gita, not by scholarship or speculation, but by hearing them in association with pure devotees. Chapter 6 through chapter 12 are the essence of the Gita. If one is fortunate to understand the Gita, especially these middle 6 chapters in association of devotees, then his life at once becomes glorified beyond all penances, sacrifices, charities, speculations, etc. One should hear the Gita from devotee because at the beginning of 4th chapter it is stated that Gita can only be perfectly understood by devotees. Hearing the Gita from devotees, not from mental spectaculars, is called faith. Through association of devotees, one is placed in devotional service, and by this service, Krishna from past time names etc. become clear, and all misgivings are dispelled. Then, once doubts are removed, the study of Gita becomes extremely pleasurable, and one becomes a taste and feeling for Krishna consciousness. In the advanced stage, one falls completely in love with Krishna, and that is the beginning of the highest perfectional stage of life, which prepares the devotees transfer to Krishna's abode in the spiritual sky, Goloka Vrindavana, where the devotees enter into eternal happiness.
Yeah, so chapters 7 through 12 are the essence of Bhagavad Gita. And one should try to understand these chapters not by scholarship, but by hearing them in association with devotees. And if someone does that, if one is fortunate enough to understand Bhagavad Gita, especially these middle 6 chapters, in the association of devotees, then his or her life at once becomes glorified beyond all penances, sacrifice, charity. So this Bhakti Shastri program, if we take this seriously and if we really try to understand these 6 chapters in association, that's the perfection of life, and life will become glorified. So if someone can say, but I don't like Bhagavad Gita, like it's too much for me to sit in such long classes, read, and half of the things goes above my head. Uh, I don't like, I can watch a movie for 2 hours without blinking an eye, but to sit and hear Bhagavad Gita, it looks so much of an effort and austerity. So Srila Prabhupada is saying, no problem. It's a process. One begins with a little faith. All of you have little faith. That is why you enrolled in Bhakti Shastri classes. That is why you're spending your time in learning Bhagavad Gita. What happens then when we associates with devotees and actually begin to study and understand Bhagavad Gita? Gradually, we make an advancement. So there's Adav Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, then there is Bhajana Kriya. When we go on executing Bhajana Kriya, then what happens? Anartha Nivritti. So this service dispels all one's misgiving about Krishna, gods, Krishna's everywhere. And when Anartha Nivritti is there, so one becomes steady. So there is Nishtha. And then one relishes the study of Bhagavad Gita, that is Ruchi, and attain the always feeling Krishna conscious, Asakti, Bhav, and Prem. All these stages are described in Nectar of Devotion, and Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that here. So someone who's engaged in devotional service, everything is included in that. Right? So in this chapter 8, we read about how Arjuna in the first 2 verses is asking 8 different questions based upon the last 2 verses of chapter 7. Kim tad brahma, kim adhyatmam, kim karma, purushottama, adhibhutam cha kim proktam, adhidevam kim uchit, like that he's asking. And Krishna is answering Arjuna's question. So in the next 2 verses, in the first 2 verses, Arjuna asks 8 questions. Next 2 verses, Krishna answers 7 out of 8 questions. And what was the 8th question of Arjuna? How to remember him at the time of death. And in the remaining chapter, Krishna is asking, is telling how to remember him at the time of death, how to attain him at the time of leaving the body. And he's giving a principle, Antkale chamameva smaran muktva kalevram. Anyone who remembers Krishna at the time of death, they attain Krishna. And whatever one remembers at time of death, they attain that very nature, that very. So therefore, one needs to practice remembering Krishna throughout life and while living body. And that's the process for attaining him. Practice remembering, right? So that's why there's Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. That Smaranam comes by Shravan and Kirtan. If I hear and if I chant, then I can Smaran also. So how to remember Krishna? Specifically by Yoga Mishra Bhakti. So in verse 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, there are different ways Krishna is telling. Kavim Puranam, Anushasitaram, Anoraniyam Smaranusmara. So there he's describing 8 different ways of remembering him. And then verse 10, 11, 12, 13, he's recommending a process specifically for the yogis, how they can attain him through certain practices. Om iti ekaksharam brahma, right? So, if they prayana kale chamanasa chalena bhakta yukta yog balena chaiva. So all those practices is describing. And then with in verse 14, 15, 16, he once again establishing the glories of devotional service. And after describing about yogis, he's again coming back to bhaktas, how all the devotees can remember, can attain him by fixing their attention upon him, by undivided attention, by remembering him in pure bhakti, kevala bhakti. And then he's asking, what is the destination of such devotees? He says they come back to spiritual world. What is so special about spiritual world? Then he's making a comparison between material and spiritual world. That material world is manifested by Brahma. It is dukkhalayam and ashashvatam. But beyond that, and he's giving all the calculation and the timeline. But beyond that, there is spiritual world, which does not fall under the destructive potency of time. It's beyond time, right? Time is absent there. Right? Time does not act the same way it acts in material world. It's beyond any timeline. It's eternal. So one attains Krishna's abode by Ananya Bhakti and never returns to this world. So then, once again, Krishna wants to establish the supremacy of bhakti, and thus he describes how to leave the body in such a way that one never returns to this material world. Because different times of leaving the body have different destination for a yogi. So when the sun is in Dakshinayan, they return to this material world after enjoying on heavenly planets of Chandra. If they leave the body on Uttarayan, they go back. They don't return to this material world. But about devotees, this is in the last verse. Vedeshu yaggeshu tapasu chaiva daneshu yat punya palam pradishtam. That everything is included, right? So that was chapter 8, which is like after describing chapter 7, it was like off track from our discussion. Arjuna asked 8 questions and Krishna answered those 8 questions. Now, after the question answer session in chapter 9, what Krishna was explaining, he will resume explaining. You will see a lot of similarities between chapter 9 and chapter 7. Okay, so any questions so far? We'll stop here. Are you able to understand? My biggest concern is this. Many of your cameras are off. I'm unable to see your faces. I don't know your body language. Are you able to understand? Is it going above the head? Are we moving too fast, too slow? Are you able to grasp the thing? Please do share. Yes, Prerna Mataji.
Prabhuji, the classes are very wonderful. Like, actually, I am understanding very well. And my question is that it's about the sixth look of that chapter. That is, you said that one can attain the body while think of an
Every time there is some issue of the voice, it just goes off, right? So I heard only first 40-50%, but I don't understood your question.
like, if he is thinking of something like you have examples that the Bharat Maharaj was thinking about a deer. So what? So my question was like, one is thinking about any non.
Okay, so if someone is not thinking about any living thing, right? If someone is thinking about my mobile phone, right? Where will I go in my next life? That is the question, right? So that is arranged by higher authorities, number one. And if you will carry that consciousness in your next life, maybe you will born as a manufacturer of a mobile phone, or maybe you will born as a insect in the mobile company, or maybe you will born someone who the infinite possibilities are there, depending upon your desire, your karma, your thinking at the time of time. It's up to Krishna. So we carry the same consciousness. Prabhupada is making a point. What is death? If you understand what is death. So he is explaining in one of his classes Death is like a sleep for 7 months. Or someone goes in a ICU, operation theater. They are made unconscious. And when they resume consciousness, they just resume from where they left off. Right? So I'll read I'll, let me find out. It's a very interesting, Yes. Similarly, death is nothing but remaining practically unconscious for 7 months. The body is left behind, and we enter a particular womb of a mother just to develop another body, which takes about 7 months. After 7 months, when the body is fit, our consciousness comes back. Then we want to come out of the womb, and at the 10th month, we come out. This is very miserable condition. And there was another point. Like you carry that consciousness because the subtle body is the same. The same mind, intelligence, and false ego taking the soul into the another body. So those impressions are there, those attachments are there. The point is to burn off all those attachments by thinking of Krishna. That's the point. So where there's no guarantee where our next life will be. No one can know, okay, that's your next life. There are no guarantees that there will be a human life. Bharat Maharaj, he was on the level of a bhav. He still got addicted, attached to a deer, and he had to take a birth of deer. So there's no guarantee that the next life will be a human form of life or will go back home, back to God. There's no guarantee. We really need to. The principle is, are we practicing remembering Krishna? So that's the point we need to take. Otherwise, there's no guarantee. Does this answer your question, Pranamadari? Okay. Bhisham Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, a humble request.
Yeah.
We are making notes. Sometimes, whenever we are jotting down the points, we are missing out few of the points because of the speed. We can't catch up. So, a humble request, like you were discussing Brahmaji's the duration of a day and night. I was unable to get that part because it was so
Yeah,
quick.
please ask. Please ask.
So, at times, like
Should I explain that once again?
yes, please.
So what exactly there? The calculation part?
Calculation part, because I have read this shloka many a times, but I never ever get the idea what is the actual duration like.
Okay.
So
So Brahma's one day contains 24 hours. 12 hours day, 12 hours night. So now we are speaking about 12 hours day. That is called as one kalpa. One kalpa means 1,000 chaturyug. One chaturyug means Satyug, Tretayug, Dwaparyug, Kalyug. So you take this duration of one chaturyug, multiply it by 1,000, that becomes 12 hours of Brahma. Are you able to get this?
one Chaturyug is equal to Satyug, Dwaparyug, Tretayug, and Kalyug.
Yes.
And what you explain, one
Chaturyug.
Chaturyug?
Chatur means four yugas. Chatur means char. Yuga means that time scale. So the चार युग, सतयुग, त्रेता युग, द्वापर युग, कलयुग, इसको बोलते हैं चतुर्युग. ये साइक्लिक में साइकिल्स में मूव कर रहे हैं टाइम. सो मल्टीप्लाइड बाय 1,000. So 1,000 chaturyug is equal to 12 hours of Brahma. So if you multiply it by 2, that becomes 1 day of Brahma because 12 hours day, 12 hours night. So when you multiply it by 30, it becomes 1 month. When you multiply it further by 12, that becomes 1 year. And then when you multiply it with 100, that becomes 1 lifetime of Brahma. Yes, Pranamati, they're the same. Dhyana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Any other question from
Can I?
any days, day 1, day 2, day 3?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, as per 8.26, it's written when one passes in light, he does not come back. But
Yes,
when one passes in darkness, he returns. If a
yes.
devotee, if a devotee is going in darkness, he will also come back.
The answer is in the next verse. Read the translation of the next verse.
All the devotees know these two paths. They are never bewildered.
Yes. So for devotee, whether he leaves any time, any place, any circumstances, he
He
doesn't
never
have
comes.
to think about it. He doesn't.
Okay, okay.
Provided
Got
he
it.
is a devotee and he's thinking of Krishna. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yes, Shatavi Matavi.
And Prabhuji, is it applicable to only yogis or all non-devotees can be like?
Devotees are also yogis. Yogi nam api sarvesham madgatina antaratma. So karma yogi, jnana yogi, dhyana yogi, bhakti yogi, all are yogis. Here, yogi specifically is referring to dhyana yogi, the different time skills that you're mentioning. But in the last verse, Krishna is speaking about bhakta yogis, that my devotees who are engaged totally in devotional service. Sometimes these terms can become very confusing. Any other question from chapter 7, chapter 8, anything that is not clear? Any? That is why I said on the day 1, your personal study is very important. If you won't spend time with purpose or your study handbooks, booklets, try to understand things, then it becomes a little difficult, challenging. But if you can just spend time with those purpose, then you'll have many questions. Otherwise, you won't have any questions also. Only if you study, you will have those questions. Yogis and devotees are different. It depends upon the context. Yogi in general means all yogis. Whether it's a karma yogi, it's a jnana yogi, dhyana yogi, or bhakta yogi. All are called yogis. Sometimes yogi refers specifically to one of these yogis, depending upon the subject matter that is being discussed. Sometimes yogi would apply to karma yogi, sometimes yogi would mean jnana yogi, sometimes yogi would mean dhyana yogi, sometimes yogi would mean bhakti yogi. Just like in verse chapter 6, last verse, Krishna says, Yogi nam api sarvesham mad katina antaratmana. So he's saying among all the yogis, the best yogis who's always thinking of me. So that he's speaking about bhakta. Because only a bhakta will think of Krishna all the time. Karma yogi will think of his karma and the result. The Gyan yogi will think of this material world, spiritual world, the neti neti. And he will think about impersonal. The Dhyana yogi will think about either the Paramatma or his own asanas or his own liberation. But it is Bhakti yogi who's always thinking about Krishna, like the gopis. Okay. Yes, Pranamade.
Prabhuji, is my voice clear so that I continue my question?
Yes, please, please, yes.
Because it's like So my question is that you explain about the Brahman, that the Brahma and the Parabrahma. So is the Brahma same like Brahma, Paramatma, and Bhagwan category, like the Brahma on in that list? Is it same or different?
Here it refers Aksharam Parama Brahman. So Aksharam, it's the indestructible Brahman. So it refers to the living entities. So it's not, so again, it can refer to both living entity and the Supreme Lord. But Srila Prabhupada translated specifically in reference to living entities. You will find other commentators, previous acharyas in our own parampara, who have given a slightly different uh, translation of this. But the principle is same. Even if they have translated differently, they have explained there is a difference between living entity and the Supreme Lord. One should not mistake that living entities and the Supreme Lord is the same. So here, Brahma means is referring to the living entities. It can also refer to the Supreme Lord because Supreme Lord is also Aksharam. He is also eternal. Just so that because there has been so much confusion in all the other editions of Bhagavad Gita and specifically all the Mayavad philosophy, Srila Prabhupada always takes a special care. Whenever he's mentioning about living entities, he's always making a point living entity is different than Supreme Lord. So they are simultaneously one, qualitatively the same. Living entity is also, living entity is not God, it is godly. But there is a difference, it is not God. So that is why Srila Prabhupada specifically is referring to Brahman, its living entity. And in his purport, he is referring to Parabrahman also. So it can refer to both. But one should not make the mistake that they are both are one. Is it okay? Okay. Okay, anyone last question? So homework for next class, before you come to next class, read chapter 9. Okay. Read all the verses, all the purports. Try to see what are the subject matters that are discussed. Spend some time with chapter 9. Revisit chapter 7 and chapter 8. Go through your CBS, go through your OBA questions. Don't think that I have to do only one question. Try to attempt all questions in your free time. At least try to engage with those questions. You may not write an OBA, but can you answer those questions? Uh, so, so engage with that. Hear Prabhupada's classes on Bhagavad Gita. You'll find easily on YouTube. You can read from, hear from there. Yeah. And if you have any confusions, any questions, anything you want me to repeat, explain, anything that is not understandable, please ask in the next class. And try to engage, develop your own like it's not just rote learning. Like engage with it, think on your own. How does it apply in my life? What has got to do something to me? How can I apply it? So think in that way, not just bookish. We're cramming something here. So engage with it. The more you engage, the more you read, the more you write about them, the more you'll enter deeply into it. And Krishna, when he see you are trying to understand him, he reveals within our own hearts that understanding through which we can go back to him. Okay, thank you very much for your kind attention. Hare Krishna. Have a wonderful week ahead. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.